I had been deliberately trying to manifest a lottery win. I kept on visualizing myself like holding a ticket in my hands and like feeling it. And before I started visualizing, I kind of just tried to sit in the end state and just keep feeling like I have won, or like I'm a winner. The morning that it happened, I was like, I 100% know that I won the lottery. Like, these are going to be the numbers. And so like I took a picture of my ticket and I sent it to my brother and I was like, I'm just putting this out into the universe before it happens, that like this is going to happen. They were like, wow, this is a big win. Congratulations. And I said, yeah, I dreamt of the numbers before it happened. And the woman at the counter just said like, oh, I've seen like grays and aliens and things like that in my life. And so when this happened, it immediately went through my mind of like, was it them that gave it to me, or was it God?
So I am excited to be joined right here with Kristin. And she won an incredible prize from the Maine Lottery in 2021. She won a Pick 4 game. It was a $25,000 prize, but how this came about is really interesting. Kristin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So thank you so much for inviting me onto your channel. I've been watching you for years, so I'm really excited to be here today.
Good. Well, thank you. Thanks for your kind words. Thanks for being here. So you heard specific lottery numbers, you heard these, and then they actually hit in real life. So what exactly happened?
I have had kind of paranormal types of things happening in my life, like forever. And so I've kind of been really open to the idea of having like telepathic contact and being open to mediumship. So I have heard kind of messages in my mind before. And then I found out about kind of like the law of attraction and manifestation and how like we can deliberately bring things into our lives. And so at that point, when I heard these numbers, I had been deliberately trying to manifest a lottery win. And so I had just continuously, before I went to sleep, I kept on visualizing myself like holding a ticket in my hands and like feeling it, and like kind of walking around and kind of telling my family, oh my gosh, like I won, I can't believe I won. And so this one particular morning, I just heard this really loud booming voice. It was complete blackness. I didn't see anything, but I heard just like it sounded like a military voice, almost like a military announcement system. And it was saying like 2579, 2579, and it repeated like several times. And so like the second that my eyes opened up that morning, I was like, those are 100% the lottery numbers. And so I did end up playing the morning and the evening numbers as like a straight draw of 2579, and it ended up winning.
Oh my gosh. Well, hold on a second, because there's a lot here. So you heard these numbers, and it sounded like a robot voice when you were waking up, and said 2579, and then you play those four numbers, and then they hit. Now, did you play these exactly? Is it a game where you play them in a specific order, or is it just those are the numbers you pick? And, how does this work?
The way that you can play a pick 4 lottery is that you can either choose any numbers at random or specific numbers, numbers out of order. So I could have put down like 2579 as just random. And if it came up in any type of order, then it would have had like a lower payout amount. But I was like so confident that it had to be in that order based on like the voice that I heard, that I only did the straight draw picks. And that's what ended up winning. And it's funny, I was telling my family members and like my brother the morning that it happened, I was like, I 100% know that I won the lottery. Like, these are going to be the numbers. And so like I took a picture of my ticket and I sent it to my brother, and I was like, I'm just putting this out into the universe before it happens, that like this is going to happen. And so then it was like hours later in the day, and I sent my brother another message, and I was like, it happened. Like, it finally happened. It was like, remember what I said this morning. And so it's just like really crazy.
Whoa. So you told them that you're going to win before it happened. So that's...
Yep.
And how did they react when they heard you say that?
My brother is a skeptic, so he was kind of like the first person that I wanted to tell, and kind of was like, I wanted to be able to prove that these types of things can happen and that manifestation works. And so his response was kind of like, well, congratulations, that's amazing, but it wasn't any kind of revelation of like, you've changed my mind about all this. But I don't know, it was really interesting to kind of be able to tell people beforehand and kind of say that like this premonition has come true. Which I know that's kind of similar to like what you were probably going through with your family and friends.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, it was similar in that I told people especially the day that I won, that I was going to win. Like I said, look, I'm holding the winning lottery ticket right here, and I have it. And I told quite a few people. And so when it did, it was very, very surreal. You know, a lot of people thought I was just joking, and I was half joking, but I was also serious because I had this dream about it that convinced me it was going to happen. But that's a whole nother story. But you heard these numbers. So
I did.
it must have been very, very convincing. How did it feel? So you mentioned that they were robotic type of voice that felt or sounded like robotic. Now, how did this actually feel? Did this feel like you were hearing it, something external, or did this feel like it was coming from within you? Walk me through the moment.
Sure. As I was hearing it, it was very bizarre because it was extremely loud. It was almost like vibratory with how loud this voice was coming through. But it felt like it was like completely within my head. I'm not sure how quite to explain this because it didn't sound like it was a really loud thought. It just sounded like it was like a really loud, audible, like actual tone kind of voice that was just only radiating from inside of me. And it's interesting, like just describing that it sounded like military like. I know that a lot of people can think of like maybe tornado announcements or like announcements that might come on the news if something is breaking news. And so those are also kind of loud and authoritarian, but it didn't sound like that. It sounded again like a military like command going out over like a military base, which is very, very strange.
Whoa. Well, it's certainly a military type command that I would love to hear, and most people watching or listening to this. But this actually happened to you. This was your experience. So, were you half asleep and half awake, like the state akin to sleep that they call it? Or were you conscious completely? Were you, because you mentioned this state of this sense of vibration, and sometimes that happens with people that are in this very relaxed state. So, how was it for you?
It was right as I was coming out of my sleep in the morning. So I believe that this kind of radiating voice, it happened probably 5 minutes before my alarm was about to go off in the morning. So it was like right in that wake up period that of coming out of it that it happened.
And your immediate thought was what?
Again, like I just as soon as I opened my eyes, I was like, those are lottery numbers. I know that God or spirit or some kind of beings that are around me have kind of given me this information. And I don't know if this is really relevant, but I have like contact with other types of beings. So I've seen like grays and aliens and things like that in my life, and so when this happened, I like it immediately went through my mind of like, was it them that gave it to me, or was it God? Like, but just it was just so bizarre the way that it sounded that it came through that I really don't know who kind of blessed me with those numbers.
Wow. So, yeah, you can't you can't just throw out that you've seen grays and aliens in a just a random uh, conversation. So, I mean, what do you mean?
Going back to years before this, like again, I've had paranormal contact all of my life. So as a kid, I would see like shadow people, and there was poltergeist activity happening. But as I got older, I had periods of like missing time, and then eventually that culminated in either 2015 or 2016. I was on vacation in Hawaii, and I ended up like waking up, and there was just like a tall gray alien standing outside my patio door. It didn't do anything, but I completely freaked out and scrambled across the room and tried to hide in the bathroom. And after seeing this gray, my husband and I just proceeded to forget about it. And I didn't remember that ever even happened for like about a year afterwards. And I was watching something on TV about the Phoenix Lights, and I was like, this huge memory just came like flying back to me of like everything that had happened in Hawaii and me running away and getting scared and this like gray alien just standing outside the door, kind of looking back and forth between me and my husband. And so from that point forward, I kind of started connecting a lot of dots of like, oh, like a lot of the weird things that had happened in my life previously, like maybe that was some type of kind of gray contact instead of like spirit contact. Um, so again, the morning that I won the lottery, and I heard just like this really weird announcement, I was thinking it's like maybe because they speak like kind of telepathically, maybe this is their way of more directly getting the message across where I would remember it and really hear it strongly.
Wow. Well, I have tons of questions about that. I want to dive into that a little more, but before I get to that, with this particular lottery win, you heard this voice, you felt that it was going to happen. and then it did. So what was it like? Now this was a $25,000 prize, so nothing to scoff at. But when you claimed it, did anyone else know? Because you mentioned you had texted your brother or some people that you had heard this and that you were going to win. How did other people react after you won? Did you say anything to the lottery officials when you claimed it?
I did, yeah. At the lottery office, they were like, "Wow, this is a big win! Congratulations!" And I said, "Yeah, I dreamt of the numbers before it happened." And the woman at the counter just said, like, "Oh," like I don't even think she said like that's nice or anything like that. It was just a startled kind of response, and that was it. But something else that had happened earlier that day was really strange. So as pretty much as soon as I heard these numbers and I dropped my kids off at school, I immediately went to the store to go buy the ticket. And while I was there, there was somebody in line that looked very strange. So I live in like kind of a rural farming area, and most of the people that are in my community are just like kind of like blue collar jeans and boots types of people. And this person that was in the store next to me, and it was like a little tiny like local market. He was wearing like black rags, and so very strange. Like had to, and he had like long kind of like wavy hair, and just like really stood out from normal people that are in my community. And as I was like filling out like the bubbling in the little sheet for the lottery, and I was about to go up to the cashier, like this man just said to me, he was like, "I really hope you win." He's like, or he said something like "You're gonna win" or something like that. And I said, "Well, I dreamt of the numbers this morning, so I hope that I do." And then it's just like it's such a weird, bizarre kind of interaction to have had. And I've never bought a lottery ticket before and had somebody else say something to me about it, and especially like encouraging me to win. And so it almost seemed like that guy was otherworldly or ethereal or something, and it's just another part of like this bizarre story.
So you don't think that was an accident? You think that that was tied into this?
No, and I've brought this up to other friends before that kind of believe in like contact, and they were kind of saying, "Oh, it's probably just a synchronicity. Maybe it was just some person that intuitively felt like you would be winning, so he wanted to kind of congratulate you or give you well wishes beforehand." But I would just say, based on how he looked, again, he wasn't even wearing like any kind of normal clothing. It was like literally like rags over the top of like black clothing. It was very strange.
And had you had other experiences of hearing things like that before things happen in real life, or having a dream about it, or having a connection to, having a sighting of an alien or anything before something happens in real life?
I have had a few other premonitions and have kind of like heard these voices, but they sounded different. So another premonition that happened, I had met somebody, and I kind of had this vision in my head of that I would be meeting him and his girlfriend in real life, and I saw clearly like what his girlfriend looked like, and then like push comes to shove, that like time goes by, and I met her, and she looked exactly like what I saw in the vision, and I did end up meeting them. So that was a cool premonition. And then there were other times that I heard like this voice just like really kind of loud. And one time it sounded like just like a regular man's voice, but loud, and it said like Rafa, Rafa, Rafa. And this was at the time I didn't know what that meant, and I thought it was just somebody's name just being told to me. But then a few weeks later, I was watching the news and I saw that Israel is telling people to move in Gaza to this Rafah area if they're civilians and they want to stay safe. And so I guess maybe that was just a major historical location that was being told to me. And then there was another time that I was kind of in the same kind of sleep state, right about to wake up, and I heard this loud voice, and it sounded like a military person again, but not the robotic announcement voice. And he said something about like, he like kept repeating my name at first, and so it sounded like somebody in the military saying like Kristin, Kristin, like almost like waking me up. And then they said something about like on craft, and I heard like this like radio flicker sound, which is again, it's like the sounds that are coming through with all this is just like so strange and bizarre.
I want to ask your thoughts on manifestation in a second, because I know you're really into that and you told people you're going to win. But when you're in this state where these things come to you in this dream state, do you intentionally relax to get to this point? Do you have a strategy? Is this intentional? Are you doing a technique, or does it just happen?
Okay, when it specifically comes to dream messages, I do practice the state akin to sleep, as you mentioned, that Neville Goddard frequently spoke about. So I'll try my best. If I don't instantly fall asleep, I'll try to go to sleep with like the image and the sounds and sensations of something in my mind of like that I would like to have happen. So in my case, this was winning money, and so that's all that I really do. And then I'm just really hoping that at some point in the night or early in the morning that there's going to be a message that ends up coming through, and that has happened.
And do you expect that the message is going to come through, or do you hope?
I really don't know which way it'll come through. So with the lottery, when it came through as an audible type of manifestation, but I've also manifested the house that I'm in right now. So for years, I was bidding on different homes in different states and just kept getting it. And it was at the height of like the buying boom. So that was like around like probably like 2018 to 2020. And so I put in so many bids on so many houses and I couldn't get anything. I was being outbid by developers just like left and right. And eventually I realized like, hey, I could use manifestation for like bringing this into fruition. And like finally, like the house that I'm in, I visualized myself standing out in the driveway and like feeling the wind on my face and like turning and like looking at the whole side of the building and just like feeling the ground under my feet. And so I would go to sleep, I think, for like 2 nights just envisioning this. And then after doing that, I ended up getting a call that my bid on this home was accepted. Like, and there were no other bidders, which after years of bidding on homes was like almost like unfathomable. So there's like also situations like that where if I'm manifesting, like I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's just going to happen.
What works best for you? I mean, it sounds like because you're into Neville Goddard, and what I'm hearing is that you do you live in the wish fulfilled, as they say. Live feel as if it's already happened, that you're already that which you want to be. Is that correct, or how is it for you?
I alternate a little bit between living kind of like in the end state versus like knowing that it's coming. So like a lot of people will talk about how like you've placed your order and you're waiting for your order to be delivered. So depending on kind of if I'm thinking about something small or something big, I will think like, oh, I'm living in the house that I want to be in, or I already have all of the money from the lottery that I really wanted to win. But in other cases, I'll say I really wanted to go on this vacation. So I can't say like I'm on vacation right now or something like that, but I place the order, so to speak, and I know that it's coming. And so it's just kind of like a waiting game of seeing when like the bridge of incidents is built for it to happen.
And with this lottery win that you had after you heard these numbers, was that literally the same day that you won? What was the waiting period like?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was a few hours later, so I think it was probably right around 6 a.m. that I heard the numbers in my head, and then the drawing was sometime between like 10 and 11 p.m. later that day. So if I hadn't played the numbers that day, then I wouldn't have won.
And you felt like that was the day. You didn't question it. Is that correct?
No, it was like an intuitive, innate feeling of just, I know that these numbers are being given to me and I'm not going to keep playing them day after day. Like I knew 100% that those numbers would be drawn later that day.
And had you been visualizing winning the lottery before that? Because you kind of alluded to that. Before the day that you won the lottery, were you intentionally trying to win the lottery other than just buying tickets? Were you trying to manifest it?
I was, and as somebody that was just kind of learning how to implement like the law of attraction, law of assumption at that time, I know that there's different techniques. So before I started visualizing, I kind of just tried to sit in the end state and just keep feeling like I have won, or like I'm a winner. And so I would just a lot of like kind of the work that I was doing mentally was just pushing out any kind of like negative thoughts of that I'm lacking anything or that I don't have enough. And I was just thinking like, no, I have a ton of money. But it really seemed that like once I actually started visualizing in my mind, like the actual act of like holding a ticket and looking at it and feeling that that was like the winning ticket, that's like when it actually came to fruition.
And so then what did it feel like for you personally when you did claim this prize and you won this incredible prize? After all these things happened, you had been, intentionally trying to manifest this, and you heard this voice, and it sounds like you had this experience in Hawaii with you believe it's a gray alien. So you had these experiences and then you won after hearing this voice the same day. I mean, It sounds like a movie. How did this feel to you when this happened? Like when it actually happened after you saw the numbers matching?
I felt immediately after seeing the numbers, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited!" And then I was laying in bed because again the drawing was late at night, and I had just checked the status update, and so I ran out of bed and I ran downstairs to go tell my husband who was still awake, and he was like, "I don't believe it," and I was like, "Well, what don't you believe? I've been saying all day that I was going to win the lottery today." And he said like, well, you should definitely like double check. And I was like trying to like show him I'm holding the ticket and I'm holding my phone and I'm trying to show him like, look, they match up. And he said, he's like, I see it, but he was like, I don't believe it. And so like pretty much like my husband was like in such a state of disbelief that something like this could even happen that like he wasn't all in on what had happened until I actually went to the lottery office and like kind of came home with a check. So the night that was happening, it's like I did kind of like have like this like kind of wishy-washy feeling of like oh no, what if this isn't actually correct, just because like that kind of idea was planted in my mind. But like thankfully the numbers did actually hit.
And did they do a photo op with the check and that sort of thing?
They did not know. They and they didn't even tell me they were going to give a check. But as soon as like the woman said like, oh, congratulations on winning, she just went to the back and she just got out a big check so that I could kind of bring it home.
Wow. And do you have it there with you today?
I do. I
Oh,
do. I have it right next to me.
oh,
And so
we'd
I
love
kind
to.
of tucked this away for years.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so
Yeah, look at that.
cool.
There it is. Wow.
Yeah, it's really big. I even thought about kind of like having it framed, and not so much just because of having won the lottery, but it's almost like seeing that as like an inspiration to kind of keep trying to manifest and keep practicing the law of attraction. Because if I won before, then I could win again. And as I'm saying that now, I'm thinking about there have been other times since then. I'm still trying to kind of like manifest a bigger win. I have seen numbers in my mind in the middle of the night, but I wasn't able to hold on to them. And so it was like probably like actual like Powerball or Mega Millions numbers and like larger numbers, but I forgot them. And then again this past week, before coming on your show, I saw while I was fully awake and lucid, I saw like this tiny string of like neon, almost orange, glowing numbers, but it seemed like it was only 3 inches in the bottom of my vision, and it flashed and then it was gone. And so I think that there is like some type of being or God trying to kind of help me out again, and it's just that my mind isn't grasping onto it fast enough.
That is really interesting. Well, that's a vision we all need to have. When you have these experiences where you are visualizing, you are consciously into manifestation, and you've mentioned this connection with something else, like other intelligence helping you that we're connected to, if I'm understanding you correctly. So do you believe
Yes.
that this win was manifested, or do you believe that this was created by this other intelligence, or a combination of that? Or what's your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts?
I'm still so much on the fence about how all of this works, and why did I hear this voice in the manner that I heard it instead of just hearing like a normal person's voice. I'm constantly wondering like who was it that kind of gave me this message. And so because I have ongoing contact, I've seen one of these grays like in my house. My kids have seen them. I have a lot of like orb contact over my home. I see like again a lot of the experiences that I've had are shared with my family members. So I'll see like these like little light bursts and inside my home, and my daughter will say, "Did you see that?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I did." And so there's just like a lot of activity around and a lot of different kinds of beings. And there's always a question of like who is here right now and kind of what are they doing, what are they communicating. And because as I mentioned, like these grays seem to kind of communicate telepathically. Sometimes I'll just get clairaudient messages in my mind. And on one of these occasions, I was meditating, and the question was kind of asked, like who are you? Like, what do you consider yourself as? And the response that I got back was messengers of God. And I thought that was completely out of nowhere, out of the blue. It's not something I would have ever imagined to associate with like a gray type of being. But then I was watching, it's Carl Nell. He's either a general or a colonel, like ex-military, Carl Nell, and he's like one of like the UFO alien whistleblowers that's come forward. And he was speaking at the Soul Foundation conference, and as he was talking about like the different types of beings that we've seen in like our black programs and within the military, he said like we're not exactly sure what they are, but they might be messengers of God. And so like as while I was watching that and I heard that, I was like, that is shocking that he used the exact same terminology like that they told me. And so I've kind of ruminated on that over the past few years. And as it relates to the lottery, I've thought like, well, maybe they are almost kind of acting in this kind of angelic manner and kind of doing the work of God in order to bless people. And so that's definitely a possibility.
When you say gray, I think I know what you mean, but for people that are watching or listening to this that aren't necessarily as into this, this might be new to them. You know, is this like the what we see in movies, like the stereotypical, like what does this actually look like when you have seen these? And yeah, so let's just start there.
Sure. The gray that I saw for the longest amount of time and most clearly was in Hawaii. So I had like a few minutes of being able to like rush around the room and stare at it out the door. And so it was, there's tall grays and short grays. So the only ones that I've seen are tall. And so they're about 7 feet tall. But other people have seen ones that are about like 3 to 4.5 feet tall, which I haven't seen. But they all have kind of a gray skin and they don't seem to wear clothes in a lot of cases. I've not seen them with clothes. And they have like a proportionately like bigger than a human's head and bald, no protruding ears, no real protruding nose, and just like a slit for a mouth. And the eyes are big and black and like almond shaped that kind of wrap around the head.
With any encounters with aliens and this sort of thing, do you feel that you're attracting this or opening a door to this, or is it just happening? Is there any rhyme or reason to this?
As I mentioned, I've had contact with some types of beings since I was a kid, and a lot of the like kind of activity that was going on was kind of invisible. So I would hear knocking on the walls, and I would see and hear like objects moving by themselves and electronics turning on by themselves, which is kind of very similar to Close Encounters of the Third Kind when like the little child just sees all of his toys turning on at once. It was like never got that crazy in my household, but there were just things moving and turning on that shouldn't have. And so at that time, I didn't know what was going on. I just thought it was ghosts. And again, now hindsight's 2020. Maybe it was these grays. And I think that this ties a lot into kind of family genetics because both of my parents are experiencers as well. So my dad, when I was about a preteen or a young teenager, he started telling me about how he his whole life had been seeing shadow people. And he would say they don't come in the house though. It's like, and he would try to point them out to me and like say like down on the street, can't you see that one like walking past the car? And I would say like I can't see it. And then my mother, she received a phone call like from her deceased father like the year that he passed away, and like I was 6 years old when that happened, and I remember him calling on the phone and her kind of breaking down as that happened. And then he came back to her later on, years later, as like an apparition. So I think that there's some kind of like spiritual, paranormal type of component that ties into entire like lineages or family lines that makes it so that entire families are contacted. And as I mentioned, like my kids have contact as well now too.
This whole experience of with the lottery, it sounds like you have a lot of experiences, but with just this lottery win tied into this, hearing these numbers, and then it happened in real life, what is your takeaway from this whole thing?
I would say to always be optimistic and just always be aware of the fact that miracles can happen to people. They do happen to people. Pretty much all of your guests that have been on your show are kind of a testament to what can happen in our lives. That's unbelievable and wonderful. And pretty much if you are really open to that happening in your life, it probably will happen in your life. And so it's all about belief, I think.
You expect this type of thing to continue to happen. So you put it out there before you go to bed, and you about an intention of getting a certain type of message, and then you oftentimes you're hopeful or you expect that to have something happen, and oftentimes it does. Is that correct?
It is. Yep. So pretty much anything that you set your mind to, if it doesn't matter how tiny or how big it is, it just seems like if you have that belief in yourself that it's going to happen, then it will happen. And I've seen other guests on your show that kind of have said for 20, 30 years that like, I'm going to be a lottery winner. And I just innately know that that's going to happen. And then it ends up happening. And like, that's just kind of how all of this works. And it's just funny. It's just even thinking about like even failed manifestations of getting close to having something happen and then it doesn't. Again, I've still been focusing on like winning the lottery again and just like winning a bigger amount. And so there was, I think it was, I don't remember, I think it was a Powerball that was like over $1 billion at this point. And I visualized watching the local news and just seeing like, oh, the state of Maine just had its like first major winner of like this lottery ever. Like nobody in the state has ever won such a large amount. And I was like, I went to sleep and I was like, yeah, I know that that's 100% going to happen. But like, I didn't put myself into the news story. I just saw the newscaster like announcing this. And then it was pretty shortly after that, like a few days after I had been visualizing that, that I was watching the news. And that's what ended up happening. It was like somebody that won more than $1 billion won in my state. And it was the first time my state had like a winner that large, and it wasn't me. And I kind of chalked it up to not properly visualizing or not properly believing in like those two kind of data points going together, that it would be me winning plus the biggest win happening within Maine. So it's also like really important to be like super duper clear on what exactly it is that you want, because I did manifest seeing that on the news, except it wasn't like exactly what I wanted.
Well, it sounds like you're tapping into something. I mean, it sounds like you're tapping into this knowledge. If you accept that this is real, that this is not a coincidence, time after time again, that you have these premonitions of something, or you hear a voice or something, and then you see validation of what seems to be actually happening. So if I were to, or anybody watching or listening to this were to go to sleep tonight, they want to put out the intention and be very specific. They want to get information on fill in the blank, whether it's the lottery or anything. I mean, if you play the lottery, always play responsibly. Never spend more than you can afford to lose. I always have to say that is very important. But play responsibly if you play. We're not encouraging you to play. So, but if you do, then, and you want to put this intention out there, then what is your best advice?
I would say to use whichever technique feels most natural to you to make you believe. So some people will say you can say affirmations and just keep repeating the same thing. But if you don't truly believe what you're saying, then it's not going to come into existence. And so you kind of really have to dig into your subconscious and change your subconscious beliefs to like really know innately that whatever it is that you're desiring is going to come to you. So again, I always kind of go back to Neville Goddard, and I would recommend anybody that is learning the law of attraction or about manifestation to read like Feeling is the Secret. So it's a short book and it gets like right into how to properly think and kind of live from the end. And so in that book, Neville explicitly talks about visualizing and feeling and having the sensation of something being done. So that would be like my really big advice, is that if you can go to sleep at night or just throughout your day, keep saying like, I have this thing that I would really like to have happen in my life. And especially if you can picture it in your mind, and if there's anything tactile you can add to it. So let's say you wanted a new car or something, like if you can imagine yourself sitting in the driver's seat driving around, and you can feel like in your imagination the feel of like the steering wheel, and feel yourself pushing the window down with like the button. All of those things will make it kind of turn into a memory that just hasn't happened yet. And so that's kind of like the way that I always like to think of it. It's like whatever I'm putting into my mind is going to happen in the future and become a memory. And so it's kind of touching a bit on like the timeline that we live in. And yeah, the closest that you can get to like your actual real life, the easier that it's going to be to have that brought to fruition.
Hmm. Yeah, and so many people get caught up in the timeline of this or that hasn't happened yet. But if you're trying to manifest something or create something, even if you don't use the word manifestation, and it hasn't happened yet, then what is the most powerful way to make it happen faster? How do you not get caught up in the timing? Because we get this question all the time, and I have my opinion, but what is yours?
Yes. What I believe is that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to command your thoughts every moment of the day. Obviously, it's like if you're going through financial struggle or you're having some type of issue with your health, it's like you can't deny the fact that you're physically going through these kinds of hardships or kind of negative situation that you're currently in. But whatever kind of occupies your mind the majority of the time, I feel like is what kind of comes into our reality. So yeah, for example, let's say you are dealing with like having like some kind of autoimmune disorder, or there's just like some kind of ongoing health condition that's kind of really bothered you, you kind of take care of it and you treat it while you can, but at the same time, the majority of your thoughts being focused on like, this will get better and I'm going to get better. And I am a healthy person and my healthy body is like kind of like fighting whatever is going on, like having like those constant thoughts that push back against your current reality, like that will eventually lead to like the desire coming true. And that can be applied to anything, including like receiving money or physical goods or anything really.
I love that. When you've seen these grays, when you've seen these aliens, I mean, are they friendly? Are they scary? The first time you saw one, were you terrified? Because I've seen a million horror movies and I can't imagine how I would personally react. What would be my gut instinct if I were to see something like that? So, what was it like for you? And how does it feel?
Well, since you mentioned movies, like right off the bat, I would just kind of get into like kind of comparing what I've seen to like what is in movies. So they don't look as angry or textured or strange looking as you would think of like with like Fire in the Sky or Signs. Like they don't have like this ominous overall look to them. And of the movies that I have seen that kind of gets it the closest to what I've seen, it would be the really tall alien that comes out of the craft at the end of Close Encounters. Except his face is more textured and older looking. They don't really look like that. And then there's, if you've heard of this movie, Knowing, with Nicolas Cage, there's kind of like these kind of glowing, luminescent beings, and they kind of look like that. And they also sort of look like the beings from AI, the movie. But none of them get it quite right. So it's like when they kind of like glow in these scenarios, they don't glow physically in real life, but their actual shape and proportions and everything is very similar to like Knowing and AI. Um, and the first time that I did see one when I was in Hawaii, I was horrified. I was terrified. And so upon seeing it, like I was laying on my side and I couldn't immediately see it when I woke up, but I just felt somebody in the room. I just felt a presence behind me. And so when I turned over, like I at that point in my life, I didn't realize I had any contact with aliens. I didn't even know that they were real, and I didn't think that if aliens were out there somewhere in the universe that they could possibly make it to Earth. Like I just thought of them being on like like UFOs and spacecraft, and just it's other places and other planets that they would live. Like they couldn't get here. And so at the time that I saw one, I was like, there was no idea in my mind whatsoever that they were real, like on our planet, and that people were seeing them. And so when I saw this standing in the doorway, I almost saw it as like a monster, I suppose, or a creature. And so while I was seeing this, I was completely freaking out as like this isn't reality. Like this thing in front of me shouldn't exist, and that's something that really stands out to me. When I recovered my memory of seeing this, I remembered like yelling at my husband, trying to wake him up, and I kept saying like, "There's a thing at the door. There's a thing at the door." And anytime I would talk to him about it, I'm like, "What is the thing outside? Can the thing get to us? Can the thing go around the building?" And so even while I was looking at this tall gray that very clearly looked like your stereotypical alien with like the big eyes and the little mouth, um, in my mind I couldn't rationalize that I was seeing an alien, just because for so many years I never thought that that was a real thing, I suppose. And so it took me a really long time to stop calling it a thing or the thing, and I still kind of catch myself when I talk about it saying like, "Oh, I saw a thing," in Hawaii, rather than saying that I saw an alien.
What do you think that they want? Or what have they told you telepathically?
So during meditations, I've gotten kind of more information, and so other contactees or experiencers might be kind of familiar with the term of downloads, but they'll like you just suddenly know a lot of information, so you don't hear words, and it's just like you have a complete knowing and understanding of an idea that they're trying to tell you. But I do wonder about their intentions, just because it seems like they've probably been involved in my life, my whole life, and probably in my parents' lives and my grandparents' lives, even going back further and further. Um, I do wonder kind of like what they're trying to get out of this. If it's just observational with like kind of like little miracles and blessings that they kind of put in, or if there is kind of more going on as far as everything that's happening in my life kind of being guided in a certain way so that my life ends up in kind of the best possible position it might end up.
Hmm. So, do you think that it's possible that they're a guardian angel? I don't know if you want to use the word angel, but that they're there to guide you in a positive way?
It does seem that way with my experiences. So I don't think that they would ever deliberately use the word angel. But they do seem very benevolent, and as if when they give advice, or if they say something that might happen, or there's some type of information being given, then it's in order to kind of help me, or put my life on a more optimistic, happier path. So they've even shown me like past lives before. I had like a huge download about past lives with somebody else, and that was all like super nice, of like holding hands and walking with like this person as he was my friend. And so it's just, there's a lot of information given that's like kind of supposed to be uplifting, I suppose.
Kristin, I am so incredibly grateful for your time today and for sharing your experiences. And congratulations on your win. But is there anything that you would like to say about this, or anything that we've spoken about today that I don't know enough to ask, or that you just want to say?
I would just say that if anybody is trying to bring any wonderful thing into their life, just stay optimistic and don't really doubt yourself if you find yourself asking, like, is this actually going to happen for me? Like, life is hard, or I'm just not sure. I mean, if you keep just coming back to the same kind of message in your mind again and again, that like this is going to happen for me, then it will. And so I do talk about some of these types of things, and I talk about like my contact on my TikTok and YouTube channels, which is called Soames Mist. So if you enjoy hearing about these types of things, and I might talk about manifestation and meditation more in the future, you can check me out on there.
So I know that you're on TikTok, but where can people find you?
Sure. You can find me at Soames Mist on YouTube. And so I talk a lot about my contact and kind of what it's like to be an experiencer, but going into the future, I might be talking more about manifestation and meditation, and kind of just how that ties into my life. So if you are interested in this type of stuff, then you can check me out there.
And we will link to that in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the show notes if you're listening to this today. But is there anything else that you would like to say that I haven't asked, or don't know enough to ask, or that you just want to say today before we get going?
I would just say that if you have anything that you can kind of hold on to regarding like faith or your belief system, and no matter what it is that you believe in, I would say to kind of turn to whatever that higher intelligence is outside of yourself, whatever you want to call it, and kind of believe that there is something bigger and better than ourselves that cares about you, and they kind of want the best for you in your life. And so if you can always kind of believe that somebody's watching out for you and has your back, and that they care as much about your desires as you do, then like that will also kind of help with like having this kind of positive, optimistic energy that will make all of these things happen for you.
Well, I love that. That is beautiful. Thank you very much, Kristin, for your time today. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. It's nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too. It was nice speaking to you. Thank you.
Before I played the lottery, I was told the winning numbers.
When you receive these lottery numbers, are you asking for these numbers? How are they coming about?
Upon playback of the video, you hear an EVP of a little child's voice saying, go to the lottery, play the number 1111. I played the numbers I won. I played Pennsylvania, Maryland, and I played Delaware. So I won in all three states. Guardian angels, aliens, whatever you want to call them, they also have given me winning lottery numbers. The fundamental question that has perplexed people for all of human history is, are we alone in the universe?